The preacher's back with the Bronco 2 here, but today we're going to be working on a different vehicle. So I'm Pastor J Dylan Proctor, but I'm here with my dad today,
Pastor Mike Proctor.
and we're going to be working on his F-250 Super Duty. And Dad, what are we going to be putting on it today?
Tie rod in. Going to work on the steering rack.
All right, and that's just a simple part that connects your steering rack to your wheel, and it's pretty important to steering. But before we do that, I want to really introduce our theme for today's Bible study. We're going to be talking about how important it is to uphold the full law of liberty and not to let yourself fall astray in one area. One little point can cause everything to fall apart. A tie rod end that's out of shape, a ball joint that's worn out, or some rot that's keeping your frame from connecting well to your cab, that can cause everything to fall apart. And that happens in our personal lives too. So here we are up under the truck. We've got to get it broken free and get the old tie rod end out in order to get the new one in. That text out of James 2:10, it says, "Whosoever shall keep the whole law, yet offend in one point, is guilty of all." And that reminds us that it is so important that we make sure that we are striving in all areas of life to apply the biblical worldview and live Christ-like lives. Because so often, we want to twist things into formulas where we say, I did a good job keeping the 9 commandments, so it's okay if I fall short on the other one. But in truth, we are supposed to be people who live a complete life that reflects our Maker. We're supposed to live a complete life of Christ-likeness so that we may witness to others around us and snatch them out from the deep. Yep, so we've got to get the tie rod down loose. We've got to pull its brackets and everything off so it can be easily removed and replaced with the new one. One kind of has to beat it to get it out of its place. Nothing major. Dad, I've been preaching out of James while I've worked on the Bronco, and I know you had a text you wanted to share out of James chapter 3.
Absolutely. James chapter 3, verses 3 through 5. If we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are so large and are driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rudder wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things.
All right, we got to twist this old tie rod end off of there. Here it comes.
The tie rod end is a very small part to this truck, yet it is essential to steering so that we don't crash. The tongue is a very small part of our body, yet if we do not keep it under control and in check, then it can also steer us into great destruction.
It's very easy for things to fall apart if we have just one thing that is off. Just like having this one tie rod end off can put the whole truck at risk of failure. Not only will you lose steering, it'll wear on your tires unnecessarily. And you could even have a wreck, which would be quite catastrophic. So it's important that you make sure you don't have one area that can cause folly for everywhere else. Here you can see the old tie rod end next to the new one. This old one has so much play you can move it around by hand, but the new one is nice and firm. All right, so this has a grease fitting that's got to be installed on it. All right, here we go. Paul reminds us in Romans 12 to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And one of the beautiful things about the gospel is that Christ wants you to be completely transformed in all areas of life. Just as God is holy and excellent, therefore you should be holy and excellent, we should be people who achieve great things in all areas. Regardless of what talents, gifts, and graces have been given to us, we must pursue excellence in everything that we do. That is about the same in. And there comes the new one in. All right, we've got to make sure that our wheels are straight across here. Make sure everything is lined up. We're working on a steering rack here on this F-250, and it's important that we remember to go straight. The straight and narrow pathway is important. There's always this big chance that you can veer off one way or another if you don't have a good system of guidance. And the church has so many wonderful things handed down to us. Our scriptures, our traditions, and even the fellowship that we have with one another keeps us going straight. As we look at our work today, getting a steering rack set up straight, even talking about James, we are reminded that the gospel of Christ, it comes with the greatest mercy that we could ever imagine, but it also comes with this final decisiveness that says, this is the way, this is the truth, and this is the life. If you separate yourself from this, it's beautiful liberty, you will find yourself in a terrible place. You know, we've done a lot of work to this Bronco back here. And you know, just as God does such great works in our life, you don't want to have one thing come along and mess up everything. You know, we've still got a few little things to do before we can put the interior back in here. It would have been such a great shame to cover up those rust and rot holes with carpet, because that would have not worked out so well in the long run. We can't allow one shortcoming in life, one area of rot and decomposition, to come and crush and ruin everything else. There's always something which wants to weasel its way into your life. Put on the full armor of God and make sure there's not one little area trying to weasel its way into your life and pull you all the way back down. All right, you're 81 5/8. So once we get the new tie rod in, we want to make sure that the wheels are lined up with one another. So there's a tie rod in on each side of the steering rack, and when you twist here in the center, it'll push them out or in depending on which way you're rotating. All right, I'm touching the tire.
Yeah, I am too.
And doing that can help you get the truck lined up. So now that we've got that done, we need to get everything nice and tight. Make sure everything is buckled down well so we don't have any unnecessary movement. Alrighty, the tie rod end is replaced.
Let's take it for a test drive.
Alright, that wraps up the steering rack, and next time we'll be joined together and work on another project. I'm Pastor J Dylan Proctor. This is the Bronco Bible Study, and I'll catch you next time. God love you and have a blessed day.